Halloween
Forever.
Guys, I'm maybe you can sympathize with this, but I just was thinking the other day about when I was a young man. Back when I was a young man, I used to be into demons. I used to date a lot of demons.
Sure.
I don't know if you guys did that at all.
No, I'm not I wasn't a young man, but maybe the demon thing I can relate a little bit.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
For sure.
What I mean. I eventually got off of that, that kick. They're just too possessive. Welcome, boys and ghouls, to a fucking Minisode of Howie's Forever. I'm Brian.
I'm Meg.
I'm Champ.
You could have done so much better. My first joke
That's
back.
not the point. Doing better is not the point. Doing. I'm just doing. Guess who's back?
The boys are back in town. Okay, we totally yeah. Straight than Lizzie.
Well,
that's what they played as soon as I got off the plane.
That's did they? Well, I thought you weren't a young man. They were playing The Boys Are Back in Town.
Yeah.
You requested that. I mean, that's
I did
your standard entrance music.
Gender fluidity, like totally here for it.
Whenever I get off the plane, the song that I always insist that they play is "No Chance." That's what you. I go for Shane O'Mac's intro music. I don't know why, but. Anyway, guys, Meg's back from just draining blood all over the continent of Europe. We're eager to hear what she did, what happened. We got some news to go over. We got some pickies to discuss for not our picks for June, but our topic for June has been picked. It has been pucked by our social media friends. We'll go over that. And as you might have saw when you checked out that old sumbitchin' title on your podcast app, we are going to talk about the brand spanking new Evil Dead Rise, which is from the year of our Lord 20 and 23. So before we do that, let's get some beers flowing at least. What are you drinking here on this beautiful? We're recording this on a Friday evening, so it's festive. The party's just getting started. The workday has just ended. I'm gonna get rip roaring ass drunk.
Damn,
it's 5 o'clock somewhere, as they say,
including here. It is past 5 o'clock, and I'm already
time.
3 beers in.
Local time.
What are you drinking?
I lined mine up with, I'm going to start off with, what everyone expects. I have a nice Miller High Life to start, but that's not the main event. Guys, calm the fuck down. I busted out a beer I got on my trip. I'm going to fuck up the name, but when I was in Munich and met up with a brewer there, he's originally from Austria. He's like going to school in Munich for brewing. So he decided to bring me like one of the original breweries that brewed Vienna Lager.
Oh, the Vienna Lager.
Yeah. So I was joking before we got on that I was just saying like, Swisher Sweet, Swishet, yeah, something like that. Very respectable brewery, beautiful label, delicious. It's really nice. I was interested to find out too, where going to different cities where beers originated, and this guy made a point of saying that Austria really fucked up and really not capitalizing on owning the Vienna Lager, and then it just left.
Yeah,
so,
they didn't do the thing. They didn't do the thing that Pilsen did. They didn't have good enough. They didn't have as good a marketing people as Pilsen did they?
Correct.
They really are. If you think about the birthplace of pale lager beer, but Pilsen gets gets all the credit, and they have to say golden lager beer because it's just paler than the other one. But yeah, they get some PR people over there in Vienna. But I love a good Vienna lager. Some Vienna lager made with real Viennas. I got one from
it came with actually a dick in each one.
Nice in between it, yeah,
with a straw, kind of like you're a bachelorette party. Yeah.
You don't have to talk like that, Meg. You could have just said hot dogs. You could have just said hot dogs. You don't have to work blue.
Why would I do that?
You don't have to work blue. Which is funny on this podcast because we never don't talk about cum on every single episode. No, I used to work in college at a comedy club. So boy howdy, I've picked a lot of those little dick straws up off the ground at the end of the night.
We kept them all, didn't you? You're definitely a hoarder.
Yeah, I just jammed my pocket full of little plastic dicks. That was my payment. I don't know if I've had that beer, but I am familiar with it. But I don't know if I've actually had it.
Yeah, I'm gonna move it up closer. Can you? Oh, I didn't. Let me grab a glass real fast. I haven't fully unpacked, so I can find one in 2 seconds.
No, don't worry about it. I just was curious to see what it looked like. Just as the beer nerd in me was curious to see what the color was, but I didn't mean for you to run away and do that. But that is, I'm eager to see what the color is of the beer. While Meg goes and grabs a little glass there for you, Steve, will you be drinking?
Oscar Blues 1050.
Oh, shit. That's what Steve says. You know what? First hot day of the year, that first balmy kind of humid summer day.
Hell
give me
yeah.
a fucking big old yum stout.
It's fucking sticky. It's like 83 degrees. I don't have air conditioning even in yet.
Yeah.
I just have the window open and it's just Oscar Blues 1050, 10 and a half stout. I don't give a fuck. It's Friday.
It's Friday. Ain't got no job. Ain't got shit to do. I love a 1050 because I love, as you know, an aggressively hopped stout. Is that still a pretty... Back in the day, that was a fucking aggressively hopped stout. But I can be honest with you, I probably haven't had that beer in 4 or 5 years.
You know, it really isn't. Not as far as I'm concerned. It's still really, really good. I still enjoy it. Mm-hmm. And this also just for if there's... You know, I'm sure there's still some holdover Hop Nation USA listeners on our show. Mm-hmm. And I just want to remind them that all weather is stout weather. You know,
I like that. And I agree with that. But it's also one of those things is like with the changing of the tides, it's like nothing is as hoppy as it once was.
No, not stouts. Oh, that's a pretty fucking beer. See, that's what a Vienna lager should look like. It should be like a deep gold to like slightly garnet kind of hue to it. And so many times people make Vienna lagers and they just make them look like a big old fucking chewy Märzen, or they make them like really deep amber. And not that I don't love a yummy amber colored lager beer, but like Vienna lager should be like a pretty delicate beer. You know what I mean? With some nice hop character to it. Super dry, not like cloying and shitty and crystally.
And caramelly. There's a lot of caramelly American ones.
I hate that.
I don't know if a lot of people knew that like a Vienna lager made its way over to Mexico. And so a lot of those like Espolon or not Espolon, like why am I fucking up there? The main Modelo. Oh, yeah. You can like find stuff like that. But the Bulldog in Pittsburgh, so if you're Pittsburgh based, I was there 2 days ago and they had a couple of them. They did have one that's a little bit more Vienna and a little bit one that's more pale style. So if you're interested in trying them, go get that.
Nice. I love a Vienna lager. I hope that style comes around. It's not necessarily one, you know, when some of those like Czech dark lagers and stuff like that started to like, you'd kind of feel them pool around the periphery and you're like, people are going to start making these beers because you can see that people are starting to get a little excited about them. I never really see much enthusiasm around the Vienna lager. Like, yes, there are just like some big amber lager brands that are like, quote unquote, might call themselves a Vienna lager. Like,
think about like in Pittsburgh, we have so many Germans. So like, I think for a lot of like the general or the lay consumer of like Märzen, that's what they say to think of Oktoberfest. And though the styles are distinctively different, like it looks similar, they're like a little bit more of a malt profile, like, so I think that kind of can outshine it, but anywho,
subtlety is hard to sell.
But and I would also say probably as Americans we've had really bad ones, like the Devil's Backbone Vienna lager
is fucking fart juice.
It's one of the worst. It's one of the worst beers I've had, and it's fucking disgusting. And if like that's everybody's entry to it, they're not going to go looking for it. Whereas there isn't a real entry for Tomave Pivo other than just seeing it and going, what's a Tomave Pivo? And then you have it and you go, I like a Tomave Pivo.
You say it like you're Mario. You say it like you're Italian, even though you're
I'm just imagining the Mario brothers, Mario, Luigi, Mario, standing in the aisle going, oh, what's a Tomave Pivo? I don't know.
What's a Tomave Pivo?
Insanely offended right now. Just kidding.
As an Italian plumber, Meg is super
yes, as an Italian plumber. No, even just like after being around all these beers, and I genuinely fucking like, Brian, I had a question. Like, have you been to Prague? Because I feel like, okay, cool. I just want to make sure, because I don't know. I fucking absolutely loved it and fell in love with just loved the local pub vibes. I ended up reaching out to a couple brewers and then the beer writer Evan Rail, who gave me a couple local suggestions.
Evan is one of the coolest dudes. I got to drink beer all over Prague.
That's awesome.
And Pilsen with Evan.
That's sick.
And we had a goddamn blast. And this was years back, but Evan is one of the coolest guys.
I want to go back so bad, but yeah, I just appreciate it so much.
Did he find you some Benedict 12? Did you guys drink some Benedict 12? No, it wasn't really.
I just was basically like, if a person has 36 hours to be here and they want to get the most experience out of like local beer, where do they fucking go? And he gave me like a local spot near where he lives. Obviously Golden Tiger.
Golden Tiger. Did they cuss you out or with their eyes when you came in?
No, they were actually so kind. Like there were other people who came in after, so it was packed, it was slammed. And I walked in and I was like told, I'm like, don't pretend, like try to act like you know what you're talking about. And I was like, cool. So I looked at the menu, walked in, I said, I want this beer. Well, this is the funny part. He was just like, hey, can you stand over here? While other people walked in, they're like, that's who they gave the eyes to. So I feel like me coming in and asking for a very particular beer, like he knew that I wasn't fucking around. But then I turn around waiting for the beers. There's literally one beer on draft. Like there's one beer he's pouring from, and I fucking loved that so much. It was cool shit. This is like the like old school standard locals bar that has gotten a little bit of a reputation from like, I don't remember if Anthony Bourdain went there when he was there, because Michael Jackson wrote about it too.
Yeah, he wrote about it. And then Evan Rail, who for those of you who don't know, for into Czech beer at all, he's kind of like a really big voice for Czech beer in the Western world, especially. And he was the guy who was on the Anthony Bourdain episode when they went to the Czech Republic, and he like fell through the floor of that brewery and stuff. He's a born American, fluent English but fluent in Czech as well, who's lived in Prague for like 20 years or something. So he like I said, he is a big advocate for Czech beer. And we went there and it's the same thing. Like luckily I was there with like locals and stuff, but they always say like, this is like the grumpy old man Czech beer bar. Like,
well, okay, you're gonna appreciate this too then. So but like that bar compared to the other two that I went to, that Evan suggested, it's right in Old Town, so that's like very touristy. So I think it just naturally gets busy and it has a cool name. But there was two other that were a little bit on the outskirts of town that the one I saw online that they had food, so I walked in and it was like a local? Record scratch. Yeah, it was like a local spot right near. Oh no,
was it called Local? LOKAL?
Oh no! I did not go to Local. I had a couple conflicting things, but I ended up not going to Local.
Oh, that's a good spot.
I would have to look it up to get the exact name, but we walked in and it was like a fucking record scratch. This was the grumpy old man who the fuck is walking into my local spot type place. And I again just tried to play it off cool. Walked up, pointed at a tap. I was like, that one, can I get two of them? And then just handed him my cash and like just sat down and just watched. And it's beautiful. It's just like very communal. Like this is where people just go to just hang out. Like it's like being in someone's garage and just having a few beers. Like that's just kind of what it felt like. And it was cool. Also felt like women shouldn't really be in there.
Well, it's weird because the Czech, as much as I love Czech beer culture and like how much they respect the beer and the service of the beer, which is like the biggest thing that people lack in the United States beer culture. Like people over the world are like really try to mimic U.S. beer culture because of how many breweries we have and all this crazy stuff. But the one thing we absolutely fucking blow at in the U.S. is beer service, and treating the beer right, pouring it right, all that stuff. And they're super intense about it over there, which is great. But there's also this very like toxic masculinity machismo thing around beer over there too, which is a little not that cool. But that definitely exists over there a lot. It's like the whole schnit thing is like 0.3 versus 0.5 liters. And like a guy will, even if he wants a 0.3 liter because he's drunk or full or whatever, he orders a schnit, which is basically like asking the bartender to like, be easy on me, bro. That's kind of like the thing, which basically means like, I want a beer, but I can't drink another 0.5, but I don't want to be seen with a 0.3 because that's for women and children. Like that's kind of the machismo kind of thing around it over there. So it's a little weird, but again, it's also an old ass Slavic beer culture, which is very different, even in Germany.
There's
just
something
right
I still
to the,
loved
to
about
the
it.
west.
It literally reminded me of like working in some of the pubs I did earlier, just like a little bit of it. Everything I wanted to experience there was like validated. Like everything I thought about what I was going to experience, I experienced, and I was like, sick. All right, cool. Like that's what I wanted to see. And it wasn't surprising. So I wasn't like offended at any given point. It was just like, it was really cool to see this like very traditional way of doing things, and like especially around like service of the beer. I think that was like the biggest part of it. So, but anywho, that's at least minor takeaways of Prague. I'll talk about more Prague. I'm like later when I talk about the horror bar that I went to, which was pretty sick. But anywho,
nice.
What are you drinking, Brian?
I am drinking a little Kolsch boy. I'm drinking Nubble from Burgers Brewing, which is their Kolsch they just released, I think, a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, is that the first time they packaged it? Because I feel like it's the first time I've seen a can.
Yeah, I think that's the first time he canned it. I had it on draft before, but Neil was telling me they canned it, and I stopped down, grabbed a couple 4-packs. Actually, I grabbed a 4-pack of this, a 4-pack of their Vienna Habsburg, and then their rice lager, because I was in the area and I need some beer, and I swung by. And also they're kind of dealing with some crap right now because they have like they've got next weekend like this really cool like drag show thing planned, and some local shitbags on like the local community forum, you know, were like
in Zealy they're doing this.
Yeah. They like some local shitbags like started getting on them on social media, and now they're gonna like they're like, we're gonna boycott your bar because we don't want drag shows. You know, there's some, like I said, some like super ultra conservative.
You'll be back, you stupid bitch.
And
Sorry,
also fuck off. These are never the people who support your business anyway. You know what I mean?
Right.
No.
Yeah, they're just a bunch of fucking shitbag. You know, you're the people who were just only buying 30 packs of Bud Light, and then you gave up Bud Light because you think it's going to make you gay. So then now you're buying Natty, who's owned by Anheuser-Busch, which owns SAB Miller ultimately, and you're giving your money to the same people, you stupid fucking morons. So anyway, whenever I saw they were catching shit online a little bit, I was like, not only am I going to the drag show, I'm going to go buy $60 worth of beer that is more than all you fuckheads were going to spend in there in a year anyway. So fuck your face.
It's all they could afford, fucking pores.
No, that's not what I meant. I just meant because they don't actually support. Like these people who are like, we're going to boycott. Like, you assholes don't come there anyway.
No,
you go
they
to
don't
fucking
care.
Burger King, you bitch.
Yeah.
You basic bitch.
They go to Burger King and then they just drink 30 racks in their garage. They're not. Yeah.
They probably actually confused Burger King for burgers, and they're like, oh my God, now I can't get my Whopper. What the fuck?
Fucking McDonald's went woke. Now it's going to go broke.
Yeah. Oh God. Anyway, so
I just want them to do like an actual, I want someone to do this. Just do like a drag pop-up, like it's just a location you like once a week rent out a building. You're just always doing drag, specifically in Zelienople. Because all those fucking fucks.
Well, Zilly is actually like a pretty cool, like progressive little town in the middle of fucking nowhere. Yes. The problem is it's in Butler County, right still. Up against the whole rest of Butler County, which is an absolute fucking cesspool. You know, that's what it is. But in any case, support your friends who make good beer.
My idea is to rent out a warehouse and have a drag show. And then when people show up to boycott, they find out it's just like a giant glue trap, like a mouse trap.
And then we eat them. And then we like kill them and eat the people.
We just leave them there.
Oh, okay. We're going in different directions.
I just leave them in the glue trap.
Go full cannibal on them. I don't know why.
No. There's no way.
Oh my God. You just slowly just have something that swings and just starts cutting them down. You know what I mean? Like,
it's that scene from Ghost
up,
Ship.
Guys.
Yeah, I went immediately
it's from
to
Ghost
murder.
Ship,
yeah. All right. So we got some beers. We got some travel stories out of the way. And now we need to talk about our Showdown episode for June. Let me bring it up here so I remember exactly what the 3 topics were. Here were our topics that came up on that dang old spinny ass wheel. Once again, for those of you who are new to the show, don't forget, if you want to help us pick our topics or give us suggestions for topics or give us suggestions for minisodes or whatever the heck you want to do, you should probably go over and follow us on the social medias at Halloween is Forever on, Instagram and Twitter and TikTok and Facebook and all those sorts of things. So the topics that popped up on the old spinny ass wheel last episode that are up for grabs for June were found footage films, which I thought was going to be The Runaway. Spoiler alert, not The Runaway.
Uh-oh.
Second one was neo monsters, or what I called on the thing modern monsters, which is kind of what we landed on for that topic. And then lastly, redneck shenanigans.
Oh, so, God.
Found footage I thought was going to be The Runaway. It actually came in third.
Wow.
Yeah,
I feel
surprising.
like we've talked enough shit about it, though, too. And then I don't know. I just don't think there's a lot of... we've seen too many and probably talked about a lot. That
it's very polarizing.
I'm not as surprised.
Yeah.
I'm not as surprised that it didn't
Well,
get
you just
picked.
think of the Blair Witches of the world and stuff get a lot of love. But anyway, that actually came in a distant
lot of meg
third.
rails on that one, though, you know.
Yeah, we got to lay them out, or else you get bit in the ass. We've all been there. But here's what it came down to: a close race between modern monsters and redneck shenanigans, and by I think a scant maybe only 5 or 6 votes, our winner and our topic for June is going to be redneck shenanigans.
I think that's going to be so much fun.
It is, especially
Genuinely.
considering we have done a lot of the really big ones in the franchise already, like Texas Chainsaw and stuff like that. So they'll be off the table.
Is that I guess to clarify this too, because in my mind I'm thinking like Tucker, what is it? Tucker
Carlson? No.
Yeah, that
Carlson.
one. Whatever it is.
Yeah.
Not Tucker Carlson.
That's underbite shenanigans.
Bow tie shenanigans.
Or I think of even the Bigfoot movie.
Yeah, no, I think we can go in a lot of directions here. I think redneck can be a fairly broad term. It doesn't have to...
I was going to say, they don't have to be the villains like Wrong Turn. They could be the protagonists like Bigfoot the movie.
Sure.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be funny either.
No,
definitely not. No,
Right,
let's
cool.
not
So
think
just-
too hard into shenanigans. I think that was just like a cute name for the topic. I think it's just anything that has a backwoods, off the beaten path
hillbilly-ish
type of type of thing. So yeah, I think that's anything where it's a isolated. I would assume rural is probably a given here, but some sort of isolated.
All right, what movies are off the table? Obviously, some of the Texas Chainsaw. I have a couple
the ones
in mind
we've
right
done
now.
before. So like Texas Chainsaw has been on an episode before. That one's definitely done. What are some other big ones that would fall under this that we've talked about before?
So Rob Zombie comes to my mind in general. Are there any like major Rob Zombie besides like Texas Chainsaw that you'd be like, no, this is kind of like too unlike? Because like I feel like his always have that rural.
Listen, I'm not going to pick it for you, Meg. I'm not going to do the work for you. You're going to have to do this your goddamn self.
I want the opposite. I want to know that I'm coming in and not going to be like, that's a Meg Rail movie. Fucking
again. Here's what I would suggest.
Well, then fine.
Don't
what
be
I'm hearing
Meg.
is
that's going to work out great for me because I'm not Meg and I don't have to worry about it.
Fine, whatever. It's fine. All right. You know what? What I'm hearing is no Meg Rails. I'm hearing.
Well, what I'm saying is the only one that comes to mind for me that is like a very clear would be the equivalent of a Meg Rail movie we've already done before, which is Texas Chainsaw.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything else that would be like the Jaws of shark movies. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It is a weird category that I think. Yeah. Okay, cool. Heard. No Meg Rails besides what we have already covered.
Yeah, I don't think so. So that'll be a whole lot of fun. Now, another thing that I wanted to talk about, June is going to be Meg's last Showdown episode, you guys. Meg's got stuff. She's big. Oh, I'm big important. That's my Meg
At least
impression.
you can acknowledge it.
Meg?
I have a business.
Oh, I got a business to run. Oh, I'm an entrepreneur. That's my Meg impression. So Meg's got some big stuff going on that I'll let her disclose or not disclose. But her time's going to be real thin here coming up in the coming months. So Meg is, is it fair to say, taking a permanent hiatus an indefinite hiatus from the podcast? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I would be open, from time to time. But yeah, overall, like I opening a business, like there's so much unknown. So yeah. And I know we have a lot of stuff to do. So.
And we record every dang week. It is quite a commitment. And like I said, she got some exciting stuff. And whenever the time comes, I'll let you disclose and talk about all the fun stuff you got going on. But Meg is going to be departing, at least, like I said, temporarily. Hopefully she'll come back and visit us from time to time from the podcast. We'll still make fun of her on a regular basis. Don't worry. She just won't be here to defend herself.
Meg Rails is now a staple.
Yeah.
For whoever's
who's on. I mean, we talked about it when Ben was stepped in for a couple of episodes. But this does, open up a situation for Steve, me and Steve, as big baby orphans out here, looking for somebody to take care of us, looking for someone to be our third wheel here. If you got folks that you think would be a fun guest on the podcast, we're going to have some guest hosts here, a lot of guest hosts in the coming weeks. And then ultimately, if the right situation comes along, replace with a permanent third host here eventually. But for the time being, me and Steve are going to be holding down the ship and have some fun guest hosts on, not unlike our lovely friend Bigfoot Ben, who stepped in there for a couple episodes. I'm sure he will again. So here's what I'm worried about, and this is a legitimate concern in my life. If Meg wins that episode and it's her last episode, what happens then? Does she just retire champ? Yeah. I mean, she's gonna have to vacate the belt.
I will drop the stinkiest pile of like rotting shit on your doorstep.
Well, technically all shit's rotting. I mean, that's fermentation in your gut. It's happening.
Sure. Yeah. That's fine, but it'll be on fire and it'll be like
most of my shits are also on fire because of how I eat bad
Brian,
spices.
We understand you have medical problems.
Yeah.
I like Thai food, so my food is hot.
My blood is always on fire. Yeah.
I mean, that's the goal. I gotta leave at the top of the heap, There's some big shoes to fill here, guys,
Meg, unfortunately, never going to get that opportunity to be the winningest champ in the history of Halloween's Forever, but she does have the opportunity to leave on top. So make sure you tune in for that June Showdown episode, that very first Monday in June for Meg's last Showdown. But stick along with us because we got a whole lot of fun stuff going on throughout the summer. And as we approach spooky season, guys, I'm going to tell you, it's the first kind of really genuinely hot day here. It was in the 80s. It was hot as fuck here today. And boy, when I start to feel that warm temperature, I start thinking about summer, and summer's just pre-Halloween for me. So we are fast approaching.
Meg's going to turn into The Rock, where she just shows up occasionally, maybe wins the title, and then leaves to go do another movie.
Yeah. She's going to be the Brahma
I like
Bull.
these things.
The Rocky Maivia of this podcast. All right, guys, let's get into our feature presentation for the episode, which is we're going to talk about 20 and 23's Evil Dead Rise. Initial thoughts right off the top of your head. How do we feel about this movie before we start to jump into the plot and some of the things we liked or didn't like about it?
I liked it a whole bunch. Thanks, everybody. Come back next week.
What do you think, Meg?
So when I initially, there were a lot of things that I really liked about it. And then I left with some plot related things. Because the woman I went and saw it with, where overseas, we talked about it right afterwards. So she was pointing out some things and I was just talking about some things. And I was there were a lot of things missing. Is that this being an extension of the film, I don't necessarily want them to keep going with this same sort of storyline or same sort of idea, I would like it to be like a singular thing. There were certain things that stuck out, and we can talk about it along the ways. I don't know what I should disclose right now.
No,
what,
no. Sounds like you were.
But overall,
sounds like you were not super crazy about it.
I wasn't super crazy. There were things I loved, and I'll talk about them too.
Yeah, I would say I'm probably somewhere in between you two. Meg seems less than thrilled with it. Steve seems super thrilled. I was kind of in the middle. There's things I really liked. There's things I was like, take it or leave it. But I enjoyed it. Yeah, nice little fun, crazy, gory, over-the-top horror flick. There was some tropes. Yeah. There were some tropes that are specific turnoffs for me that I was like, now I'm losing interest a little bit. But then it would suck me back in with something really cool. So that's where we're all coming from. But let's jump into it a little bit here. So I'll be honest with you. Obviously knew this was coming. This is definitely one of the big kind of, tentpole horror releases for the year. Obviously a very well-known, beloved property. I'm a huge fan of the original, trilogy. I really love the 2013 Evil Dead. Is that the remake of 2013? Yeah, I really like that a lot. Like completely different tone. Closer tone to this movie, I would say, as opposed to the original three. The original, they're probably closer in tone to the original one, whereas 2 and 3 are much more jokey, and the TV show is still down that jokey aisle. It is, I would agree with that. I mean, even 1 had like had a sense of humor to it, a self-awareness to it, which maybe it had to because it was such a low budget movie. And then 2, you could argue was just like a higher budget version of 1, but did have some departures. And then 3, Army of Darkness, was just a full-on slapstick Looney Tunes shit with skeletons, which is a lot of fun too.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, this guy, so a project that we were all looking forward to for a long time, I think, certainly not on the level of like, Halloween release or something like that, but it's up there, I think. Surprised to see, it kind of be plopped in the hand of a director that I personally knew nothing about. An Irish.
Well, this was his second feature film.
An Irish lad named Lee Cronin. I have not seen anything from him prior to this.
There was his first feature I saw was like called Hole in the Ground, but I hadn't seen it. The Hole in the Ground
from 2019. Did not see it either. He was director of a TV series called 50 States of Fright. He directed a segment in Minutes Past Midnight, which I know nothing about, from 2016, and then shorts, and there was a TV series called The Master Plan from 2011. He directed 2 episodes. I literally, this guy, not on my radar at all. Steve, do you know anything about this cat?
Nope. I'm thinking he probably has like a lot of success with like releases in, you said he was Irish, so I assume he has a lot of success over there. With things on BBC and things of that nature, but no, I know nothing about him going into this.
This short film he did apparently got a lot of, I think, called Ghost Train, got a lot of like awards and stuff. It won Best European Fantastic Short Film award anyway. But that was a decade ago. You know what I mean? So it's like just. A bit of an anomaly, but obviously don't know the whole story. But again, I think,
but it kind of like it worked into some of the things that I didn't love, but I also loved and appreciated because like this movie had just a lot of like callbacks. It had but it felt like it kind of leaned on it like a little bit too much, which I think some of it we totally needed to make it be an Evil Dead movie, but some of it felt like a little too like, okay, you could have been a little bit more creative here. So, but anywho, that's like my one thought about him only being like a second feature for him, that there might have been independence there.
So I think I can help this along a little bit more as to why he wound up as the director of this movie. He worked on 50 States of Fright, which was produced by Sam Raimi.
Okay. So there's the Sam Raimi connect. There's the connection there.
But the reason why none of us have seen it, because it was on Quibi.
Oh, okay.
Does anybody remember Quibi?
I was going to say
Quibi.
Quibi, I think, is a breakfast cereal, right?
Quibi is not a breakfast cereal.
Is it like the Pluto channel, like before it was Pluto or something?
It's not even it was, I mean, maybe it turned into Pluto, but no, it was like this specifically launched for phones, 15-minute, like everything was sub 15 minutes. And it was made specifically for phones. It did not work out.
Oh.
Nobody liked it because you could only watch it on your phone. You couldn't even watch it on like a desktop or a Roku Fire or any shit like that.
What?
It was the craziest shit. That's why it failed. Everybody hated it. They put the new season of Reno 911 on there.
Oh.
Yeah. I was like, which I watched, which is why I know what Quibi was. I didn't get on the phone. I high seized that one, but I was like, this is fucking stupid. So that's why we don't know about this, because nobody saw Quibi, nobody watched Quibi, but that's where he's coming from. He's coming from directing episodes on Sam Raimi's TV show that on a fucking platform that didn't work.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, yeah, obviously a talented director, and like visually there's a lot of fantastic stuff in here. Overall, I just think it was a well-paced, well-directed, well performed, I think, for the most part. There were some things with the script that I was like, I could take it or leave it. But also I tend to like this. There's a couple of people that I recognized. The person that plays Ellie, Alyssa Sutherland, I've seen her on a couple of things. I think I'm trying to look real quick what I would have known her for. Oh, she was on Vikings. Would have saw. She was on the Miss TV series, which I did not watch.
I did.
Did you? Yeah, I did not watch that. I meant to. Maybe I'll get around to watching it. I don't know. Should I get around to watching it?
No, because it only lasted one season, and so it has
just
that kind of
drops dead.
Yeah, it just drops dead, and it has one of those things where like they obviously planned a whole bunch of extra stuff, so like none of the storylines get wrapped up or anything. So there's no point in getting into it. I mean, it was all right.
She was on Blood Vessel from 2019, which I really, really liked. Yeah, that was a cool, I think, indie flick. But anyway, no spoilers here. It's a dang old vampire on a boat, which was really cool. Lower budget.
On a Nazi boat, isn't it?
Nazi boat, yeah. Vampires eating Nazis on a dang old Nazi boat. It was pretty cool. Anyway, she's good. And then there was one other person I maybe recognized from something else, but otherwise, pretty unknown cast. I think there was some guy, this Noah Paul guy. He looks familiar, but like, otherwise I would not have known these. No, maybe not. He was on Power Rangers Dino Fury. Didn't even know that was a thing.
My mind almost is immediately going to Kung Fury, and then I want David Hasselhoff to sing a song for it. Like there's a stream of consciousness going on that I really like. The visuals are awesome.
I'm a big Power Rangers fan. Power Rangers Kung Fury. I'm a big Power Rangers fan. I'm looking at a lot of Power Rangers toys here in my office, but Power Rangers Dino Fury, not something that's necessarily on my radar. So anyway, relatively lesser known cast, which I always appreciate. I'll read the IMDb plot synopsis here really quick. A twisted tale of two estranged sisters. Estranged is a strong word, whose reunion is cut short by the rise of flesh-possessing demons, thrusting themselves into a primal battle for survival as they face the most nightmarish version of family imaginable.
I kind of hate that description.
It is a lot.
It is definitely written not for fans of the series.
Yeah.
Like, it's written to bring in like somebody who's never seen an Evil Dead movie ever.
Yeah. There's a little bit of fan service here, and they do, obviously like the kind of which I always jokingly refer to as the Demon Wind, because Demon Wind is one of my favorite awful movies.
I thought that's what you call your farts.
That's that type of witty highbrow banter that we're gonna miss when Meg leaves. It is though. It should be. Demon. When you get the POV shot of the entity like flying over the surface of whatever the hell it is, and the thing they mimic with the drone in the opening sequence, and then ultimately it always gets somebody. They do that. There's some other kind of throwbacks to other movies in the franchise, which we'll talk about. But otherwise it doesn't have a tremendous amount in common with the first movie. It just kind of feels like a general, super gory demon possession movie. But yeah. So
I mean, I kind of like that it does divorce itself in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, it is the callbacks to the previous films that are like my big negative for the film. Like, I don't need that fan service. I know I'm watching an Evil Dead film. Yeah. And for the people who don't know that they're watching an Evil Dead film, they're not going to recognize all that stuff anyway. Nah. So don't do it. Like, just don't do it.
Well, however, I think they're trying to like have their cake and eat it too in that way. It feels like.
I mean, and it's not their fault, because like literally every fucking IP does that.
Yeah.
So, but the one thing I will say that they need to do consistently is the shaky cam that does pass over all the trees and run fastly, because that's literally just a device of the demon. Because like you know, until the demon possesses somebody, it doesn't have physical form, so it just exists in all these other places. So I think that, like,
I fully agree with that one too.
Yeah, the camera is the antagonist, is essentially what it is.
Yeah, I wanted that, and I definitely wanted the Necronomicon, which was clear. Like, those are like, if you would have had those two things, I think this could have gone so many different places. And like the first thing that started really, there's, I guess, two first things that really started frustrating me that I thought were like weak points for the plot was that there was definitely a callback to, and it feels like a stretch of like there always being like a mother figure issue with like within the film itself. And with this movie, it felt like it was like a sore thumb that you're just constantly coming back to like check on. And you're like, why do you keep talking about your mom? I don't fucking know. And then the pregnancy thing, I just felt like it was a reason for the sister to go back, but it was not anything that really made me feel like was a strong plot point. Those are the first two things initially that kind of jumped out to me that I hated. But
yeah, there were some stuff. Well, let's go into the plot a little bit, and then we'll touch on those things as we move through. You get a cold open to this kind of camp cabin scene, which feels very much like the a setting that you would expect in the original, certainly in the first two movies. And you get the POV of, you said the demon kind of going through the woods, but hey, it's a drone fart noise, so it's like this kind of like red herring thing. I was like, all right, whatever. We
gotcha.
Drones are a thing now. But I really did like early on it felt like we were going to get some really interesting, weird, trippy, shots, which we got some, but they promised a lot. I feel like in that open kind of like pre-title sequence where like when they were at the cabin in the woods, and I knew from hearing a little bit about the movie already, and obviously like, I mean, even in the freaking plot synopsis here, they pretty much tell you that like the people you're touching on in these first, it felt like they were going to die. It wasn't one of those things, because a lot of movies, which I do like, was when they start out and they pull the old Psycho routine, right, where they start you off with someone you think is going to be the protagonist, and then they just get fucking offed. Like this, you could kind of see through it pretty quickly, I thought. You knew these characters were not being set up for the long term, it felt like, at least for me. And maybe that's because I, drew some context clues from things I learned about the movie before I saw it. I don't know, but you got this idea that they were going to do some weird, interesting camera things. Like there was an exterior shot of the cabin where it felt like it was this like reverse fisheye lens type of thing, where everything was like sinking in towards the cabin. And it felt like all the angles of the woods were like ending at the cabin. Do you guys know what shot I'm talking about?
Yeah. It's like partially the topography of that area and partially like the lens that they're using, because like everything is bending up and then sinking in, like you're saying. So like it looks like the cars are kind of parked on side hills, but also just the way the hills kind of envelop and delve in. And so like it's a really super wide angle lens, I think. Yeah. That also might have kind of like a fisheye bend to it.
Yeah.
That just, it makes it's really creepy. And it's like,
it was almost like convex instead of concave. You know what I mean? It was almost like the opposite of a fisheye, but it was just like, I was like, ooh, shit, this is like weird, surreal. Like, I love this. And then
I got excited about that too. Cause also like the cabin itself is very kind of reminiscent of, Midsummer.
Yeah, it was an A-frame cabin, which I was like, oh, that's like the whole thing just felt really cool. And then like we never really got that feel again.
Did you like feel like that was like, I felt like one of those things that was just like placed in there to still kind of give you that reminiscent feel of what you've experienced in other Evil Deads, or even just like a OG kind of.
It did. It was like, look, we're doing an Evil Dead movie. It almost felt a little forced, and they bring it back around at the end. Obviously, spoiler alert, guys. We're gonna spoil the fuck out of this movie. So if you haven't seen it, yes, there are definitely things to spoil, so just be mindful of that. But we are going to spoil the hell out of this. But yeah, they do come back around to it. But if the whole thing felt pretty inconsequential, and this is a franchise that exists outdoors for me, I guess. So like, it felt weird that this whole movie is indoors. It felt like I was like, it was more of like a exorcism of Jane Doe or whatever it is, more than it was an Evil Dead movie. I was
intrigued though with the change though, especially like knowing that it was not going to be a continuation of anything, but necessarily like its own thing. I liked the idea that it could be something different.
Yeah. No, I did. I thought it was a cool idea. I don't know if it felt like Evil Dead, but it doesn't need to, right? This is a different movie. You don't want it to just be because 2013, as much as I loved it, it was a little bit of just a rehash of the first two movies in a little bit of a way, right? They were out in a cabin in the woods and all that. So it was just a little bit more serious, gory, mean-spirited take on the first couple of movies.
Right. So like, I get what you're saying about how you think this is it's an outside, because even in Army of Darkness, even though they're not in a cabin in the woods, it's still just very much like an open air castle. And then Bruce has to go out into the fucking graveyard and do a bunch of shit anyway. So like, it's still, an outward thing, but I really like the fact that they divorce themselves from all the previous movies by being this very interior, closed off film. Yeah. And the other thing is, like, Meg, you mentioned how like the Necronomicon we get in this movie isn't the same Necronomicon that we were used to. It's not the one with the face on it. This one has like teeth down the binding, or not down the binding, but down
I like that one. It had a different, like the demon associated was different too.
Right. So, and what the whole gimmick is like, this one is, there's a set of 3 books. So what they're saying is like, the one with the face that we're used to is a different book from this one.
Oh, and this one didn't pick up on that.
So this one has its own progression and has its own demon associated with it. And then there's probably a third one out there, which I like. I like the idea that like we're going to see more, just kind of like almost in a Hellraiser sense.
It's like a varied lore now a little bit.
It's something I read like prepping for this though, that there in theory has already been 2 other books. So like this is basically the third one. Is what they're trying to come across, and this was the note I have for it. So they have the one that appears in front of Bruce Campbell. Let's see, an Army in Darkness, and then the Jane Levy's as Mia contends with like a second, in theory, different book.
Is that the 2013?
Yeah, that's the 2013. So like, I think in theory they're like looking at this one as like a third, but also there was a point that was made, like a different demon.
Also, my memory isn't good enough, so I don't remember if the one that's in the TV series, like if another one is introduced in the TV series. Because
I only watched a few episodes of the TV series. I don't remember.
Yeah, because Lucy Lawless's character is pretty tied to the book, and like she has like power over the book, and I can't remember if it's different from the one that we normally think of.
I watched it for a while, and I feel like my instinct says it had a face on it too, but I'd have to go back. But
yeah. So, okay. So yeah, it's possible maybe all 3 books have been introduced through film by now. Cause I honestly haven't seen the 2013 one since it come out. So maybe it had,
Those most like Beaver thing you could have just said. I haven't seen that since it come out.
Yeah, I ain't seen it since come out, so I'll know.
I never even seen it since before it didn't come out. Yeah, the intro sequence here with the these characters that you never really come back to meet that much, but one of them's name's Jess, and she's like reading this book, and she gets introduced later. We'll circle back to it, but she's reading this book, or she starts reading the book that her friend is holding. So that's like I thought that was kind of a cool little creepy scene. And then she just like beefs it off the bed and starts barfing, and then the other girl gets her scalp ripped off, which is just pretty sweet. Yeah. And I love when stuff like that happens in broad daylight, so I thought that was cool. And then ultimately she just eats the blades of the drone. And then she pulls a Jaws on the fucking dickhead boyfriend and just throws his head up on the dock. I think we saw that on like an HGTV show about just, like people who eat random things. Then maybe she would be a good like contender for that show. It was like that person that ate like fabric softener sheets.
Yeah, right. Like lint and like, plastic.
But then afterwards you do a full Jesus walking on the water scenario right afterwards. It's a different
maybe
twist.
This is like a Cronenberg overlap a little bit, tiny bit.
Yeah, this was I like this whole opening sequence, but it was all the like pre-title card sequence, and then you just never hear anything about this scenario until just like basically the setup to it. You realize that was then we're flashing back to the origins of what happened that resulted in that person being possessed.
I want to ask you, because like I feel like I familiar enough with this series, but like I haven't seen all of them. So do we see that sort of tactic used where it's like the beginnings or the ends at the beginning and then you come back to did that? Nope. Okay. No. Okay. So this is like a totally unique thing for this one.
This was just meant to, because it's the same kind of process as the drone being a fake out. This is also a fake out. To think you're going to do a movie in the woods and then you don't do a movie in the woods.
Right.
That's all. It's just a fake out.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep. So now we shoot over we're in LA, and an old punk rock Beth, she's preggers, and that's what you learn. Here's what they do. They do a good job of setting up some exposition and understanding the characters' motivations and all those things. And this is one thing I can absolutely say. This is a tight movie. Not a lot of exposition, but they get the story across. It's a tight, well-structured script. And within a couple of minutes, you see, Beth, you learn that she's well-respected in her field. She's a guitar tech for like touring musicians. And she, works in the music industry in a technical capacity. And she's like well-respected in what she does. And she's trying to like climb the ladder and like break the kind of glass ceiling, if you will. And she's, in the, bathroom of some, shitty club, and she's taking a pregnancy test, and she's straight up preggers with a Z. You then
not prego like the sauce.
Not prego with the sauce. She's straight up preggers. And then you shoot over again. Now you're like jumping over to a different setting where you're in this kind of little bit more domestic setting. You get introduced to Bridget, who is like Bridget, and there's three kids, and their mom in this real kind of, I would say it almost reminds me a little bit of like if one of the family, like not nearly as like white trash vulgar as like a Rob Zombie movie, but they're definitely trying to like portray them as this is like this cool, modern, kind of hipster alternative family living in a fucking kind of shitty apartment building.
I like really want to make a joke about these kids having future traumas because they're acting like adults and they're able to help each other out and take care of everything. But then it just becomes really sad at that point. But yeah.
Yeah. No. So you're introduced to Elle, who's their mom, who we find out pretty quickly is Beth's sister. So these are the sisters that shit's going to happen between. And you can tell there's already some like they're very close and very loving, but they haven't really been in communication because like Elle's dealing with her own shit and her like shithead husband partner. They don't say husband, but partner, who's the father of at least several of the children, had just kind of walked out on them.
At least 60% of them.
At least 60% of these children are now fatherless. No, but they, what's that from? We just talked about this.
Slashing. We just did that last week. Just did it last week.
My brain's not great. And then and then they talk about how he's a shithead, and like, you know, Elle's been dealing with it on her own, trying to lean on Beth for help, but Beth's been in her own little world. It's this classic like big sibling, little sibling type of thing. But Elle's kids are, the oldest is either Bridget or Dan or Danny.
I think it's Danny.
Yeah.
I think Danny's the oldest one.
Do you think he's the oldest? Okay.
Well, yeah, because
too.
he's the one that they give the keys to go
He's the only one that can
drive.
drive. Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's true.
So Danny is, he's a teenager. You know, he has a driver's license, assuming. And then there's Bridget, who you get the idea is maybe a couple years younger. And then there's Cassie, who's, I don't know, 8, something like that.
She's old enough to still be talking like this.
Yeah,
she don't understand.
I wish you would have just gave me her birth, like her age in months, because I assume you as a parent would have done that.
I'm widowly 128 months.
I'm widow. I love the word literally in a baby voice. I'm widowly 128 months. But yeah, she is. And nothing against the child actor. She did a nice job. She did above, a great job, I'll say. But they really milked that whole like child in danger, little baby voice, mommy, something wrong with mommy. Like they really.
But I want to hear her talk about Stephanie so much. Like
Stephanie?
That's all I wanted to hear about. I wanted Stephanie to save the day. Save the day is what I want.
There is going to be some bands named Stephanie. Like there are definitely going to be some bands based on this in like 10 years, 20 years.
It's going to be a
Stephanie's
Barbie-themed
Revenge.
metal band.
Stephanie's Revenge. Yeah.
Oh, man. I want to name a beer that, guys. TM, calling it.
All right. You get that one, I guess.
Yeah, listen. The TTB doesn't honor you saying TM on a podcast. Anyway, you learn that, like I said, Elle's, the partner's
Gentleman's
leaving, blah,
agreement.
blah, blah. Yeah, right. But Beth is coming to tell her that she's pregnant when, essentially when the demon shows up. So the demon, so I want to see what you guys thought about this. This is the part that's a little bit unclear. There is an earthquake. They live in LA. That would not be that weird, right? But are we meant to believe that because of the timing of the earthquake, there is some sort of like divine or supernatural element to the earthquake?
There's like nothing clear about that, because I feel like if there was, we would have gotten like a date or something would have been read in the book once it was found.
Yeah.
So that was like after they went out to get the pizza, they're coming back. Here's the earthquake, yada, yada, yada.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I did not garner that was a thing. I figured they're just in California and this is a normal thing for them. They chose this life.
But there is a history to this building. This building holds secrets associated with it. One of which is, of course, this version of the book. Then I don't know if they don't call it the Necronomicon. They call it the Book of the Dead. Yeah, they just call it the Book of the Dead, which is the same thing, right? But it houses all of these things, including a vinyl record from a recording from 1923 ? Anyway, I don't know the exact history of vinyl and recording and when all that started, but I don't think it was 23. Is it that early for vinyl? I don't know.
I would think so, because I thought fucking what's his dumbass Thomas Edison made the first wax recording in like the 1800s.
Yeah, that would have been. Yeah, you're right. So
and
okay,
let's
that
make
makes
a
sense.
note that this is like Bruce Campbell's cameo.
Yes, he is one of the voices on the recording. I think he's credited as the descending voice on the recording, which essentially what happens is, I'll take one quick step back. They go out to get pizza. Beth and Elle have a little bit of a heart-to-heart. Beth's about to tell her she preggers, but then an earthquake happens and the kids are on their way back. They're in the building. They're in the parking garage, in assumedly the basement, and then this opens up what I can only describe as a dang old demon hole in the basement. And they go down to what they think is a bank vault, because apparently this building used to be a bank, but they find a bunch of demon shit, including the book.
I'm going to call it AKA murder room.
Yeah,
just gonna say that. You know,
it's not a quality place for kids to hang out, and Danny's being a real Danny. And
well, it's definitely not a quality place for kids to hang out because it's a secret priest room.
Yeah, that's like the last place you want to. Yeah, that's
buddy.
like literally
terrible.
the worst place.
You went from being a priest place to a bank. Man, look at all these terrible
Not
people.
great.
Yeah.
So the one thing that, and I agree, like it's never clear. And I think we're supposed to just assume it's coincidence because they have the news report that there's a 5.5 earthquake. But like when it first happens, I was really excited at the idea that there's just somebody else in the building reading the book and they didn't know.
Oh my
and
God.
like that.
Oh, okay.
I just pictured that scene in my head, and it was someone wearing like really nerdy glasses that are like down on the brim of their nose, like licking their finger, turning the page, you know?
Yeah. It's just some other asshole has like, you know, been locked up in their room and like doing dirty incel stuff and reading their Book of the Dead. And like, I
totally came on that book.
I feel like I would have liked that more than just like, oh, this coincidence. Oh, coinkydink.
Yeah,
we found
it does
the Book
feel
of the
like
Dead.
a little bit of a quinky dink, and that's why like but the thing is when the here's why I think it might be a divine element here is because that whenever the earthquake happened, they did a kind of close proximity of the POV camera as the antagonist thing. It wasn't exactly the same. It wasn't as clear, but like that's why I kind of thought there was some sort of divine element where they were like, this is the perfect set of scenarios where like we might just have some dickhead kid who's stupid enough to climb down in this hole, get the book, read it, play the fucking record, also poke himself and blood drops on it.
I think this is just some Easter eggs. I think there's just some Easter eggs. I think there's just some things that they're trying so hard to tie back, because another thing that I pulled as like a little homage was what was on the pizza box, which was reminiscent of what I read as Henrietta. When she was in the basement, and it just looked very reminiscent of it. I think even, let me actually pull my note. Yeah. So being a familiar looking woman, but also the pizza place is called Henrietta's, kind of thing.
Oh,
so
was that
like,
the girlfriend's name or whatever? In the
No, that's Ted Raimi's character of the witch.
Wife.
Oh,
This is the deadite wife of Professor Nobi too.
Yeah.
So I think just some of those things are just elements that are just like they make you. They just remind you of another Evil Dead. But
then why does it have to? Well, no, I understand. Okay,
because I think it's just fair. Weak. That's what I think fed into like some of the weak points of it.
Yeah.
Like I mean, we had to skip over all the bullshit of even just like Beth being called a groupie, and I'm like, why? Like, oh my God, stop talking about your mom and stop calling her a groupie. These are annoying things that are somehow just distracting me from just give me a deadite right now. Like I want to see someone going, I'm gonna eat you. I'm gonna eat your soul. Like I just want the creepy deadite.
Oh, I'm gonna eat your soul. I thought you said I'm gonna eat you so hard. I'm gonna eat you so fucking bad. No. Yeah, but it's like, this all, like I said, it is a tight script, so you want to get the ball rolling and all this stuff, and they do get the ball rolling pretty quick, which I can appreciate, because so many movies now I feel like have embraced and I like a slow burn, but like so many movies just take a long time to get into the action, and this one definitely doesn't, so I can appreciate that. But anyway, what essentially happens, they reunite, the kids reunite with mom after, the earthquake, and they've been down in the old murder Jesus dungeon down there.
The old priest hole.
The old priest hole. Yeah, it's like
priest hole.
That's nowhere you want to be. That's like being a fucking mouse in a, stray cat shelter or something. So Danny goes and opens up the book, and of course he cuts himself so blood makes it open, because it's like all hungry for blood or whatever. And then, they kind of start to freak out, or Bridget starts to freak out. And then Danny finds some shit, some like backmasking shit on this record that basically is talking about, from the perspective of the clergy, and they found the Necronomicon, and it's been, here's another reason why I think it is earthquake is supernatural is because it's been 100 years. She says 1923, whatever year it was, whatever month was 1923. So it's been 100 years. So I think it's like the Necronomicon like opens itself up to the world every 100 years or something. And then this family just happened to be like susceptible to it because they got Danny, who's like a fucking bad kid. He's like, and they named him Danny. And I like to believe that it was named after April O'Neil's son, Danny, in the Teenage Ninja Turtles movie that goes and joins the Foot Clan and, and hangs out in that cool place.
That's not her son. What are you talking about?
Isn't Danny her son? Oh, no, it's just a kid. That's right. It's just
a runaway.
Yeah. Well, anyway, but she kind of cares for him, a little bit. She kind of looks out for him a little bit.
Narratives here. It's great.
Isn't Danny the dude's son with the glasses that she has some relationship with?
She works for him.
She works for him. That's right. It's been too long. I've seen the movie 1,000 times. No, she works for Danny's dad.
She works for Danny's dad at the reporting place, and then Danny goes missing.
Danny always has a dad that he's like working for.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to respect
and
Danny.
Then Danny goes and smokes cigs with Sam Rockwell.
Oh yeah,
and he hangs out with that kung fu guy.
Fucking
who's always
skateboards, gets cigarettes, fucking plays video games. It's like the coolest place on earth
all the time.
Oh, it's so awesome. I want to live there so
the best
bad.
Place.
It's seriously, to this day, like it's just bad kids' paradise. I want to live there.
It's bad kids smoking cigs, stripping copper, and fucking playing video games.
Fuck yeah, dude. I'm getting so horned up talking about it. When I was a kid, I was like, fuck yeah, I want to live there someday. Like, I was so psyched about it.
And then you grow up to be a ninja? Are you fucking kidding me?
God, this is literally all my wildest dreams coming true. So Danny tries, the whole recording thing. I'll jump through it. Comes up this whole like demon scripture starts to, be read out loud, and they're like, "Nah, dog, stop!" And then no, too late. POV demon, fucking wind comes flying in, and just Elle is in the elevator, and she just gets nailed by the demon, and then there's a whole kind of like almost, it's pretty gnarly. It's like it's almost a Hellraiser-ish type of situation, where like the cords, the cables of the elevator like wrap her up and like twist her up and shit.
It's like the exact same Vine thing though, like
It's the vines, like from the woods, but like because it was like
it was
metal.
A cool interpretation of it though. I did like that. It was gnarly.
They don't get naughty though.
No, that's the thing. It doesn't, because in the original movie they do.
Maybe she had a kink and she just liked what it was doing anyway,
But it didn't seem like it was getting quite as nasty as the Vine does in the original.
That's true.
Or even in 2 especially.
But she was also someone to call a chick who just happens to be a musician a groupie, so she's kind of a prude. Maybe they caught those vibes too.
Well, maybe. I don't know. But the whole thing is like they caught those vibes. And they were like, no, she's not down to clown. Because
this demon
what I know about this demon is they're like more into consent and all that. Demons love consent. But it was, you get the idea that this building is the equivalent of, of the woods in the first 2 movies.
Can I make a point though too to say, because we kind of talked about the whole like this being such a different setting for this story. I loved how isolated you felt the whole fucking film. Like, I thought that was great. You felt like suffocated in a sense. And I liked that. Yeah, it was a cool setting. You felt like you were almost in like a sewer or something, because everything's grimy and sweaty and wet. And it's like, I don't know. It felt very grimy. Like, even though you're inside.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't know it was LA. I thought they were in fucking like Oregon. For whatever reason, just all the rain and everything, because it doesn't rain in LA. So it made me think it was much more Pacific Northwest. Yeah, and unless they said LA, I would have never guessed it was LA. But obviously you have the earthquake, but still, like I would not have guessed LA until they actually said it, because it feels humid and like I would almost have been like they're in fucking Tallahassee or something. You know what I mean? This is a classic Florida tale. I don't know. Although I don't think they have a lot of earthquakes
Florida
down
love
in Florida.
Story.
yeah.
I'd watch that.
But yeah, anyway, she dead. Elle is dead. They establish, but they're not really sure. They think she's fully dead. The neighbors come in. The one neighbor like says a little prayer, but she's doing weird shit. Her eyes are popping open. There's like fucking, she's looking around and doing, basically doing like early demon shit.
I really like just kind of the effective moment of you have the one neighbor who he's trying to put her eyes down and like close the lids. And then like they pop back open.
Oh, it's
and
so
there's
funny.
there's just a fun little music sting of like the strings go up like something's about to happen, but then they come right back down.
Yeah.
So they just ride it all the way through, and it's like, oh, not a scary moment.
No,
it's just weird.
But it was the whole scene was kind of cool and atmospheric, and you've got like, I do feel like I thought that those neighbor characters were going to play a bigger role. Of course, they do have a little battle later. Spoiler alert: they both die and turn into fucking deadites. But
all three of them die. Well, all four of them die.
Yeah, everybody, but except for two people ultimately die.
Really?
So pretty much everyone dies. But the neighbors are trying to like untrap them. So they're trapped in this building because of the earthquake, and they have no cell service. And they keep saying the network is fucked. They say that phrase like 10 times.
They all have dial-up right now.
Yeah, but Elle starts talking to Beth about some creepy shit through her phone and starts like playing like these demons. And they do this in the original movies too. So this is a hallmark of the franchise, but they really lean into it super hard this time, which is this demon is especially apt at like tugging on people's heartstrings and manipulating their emotions. So there's a lot of this happening. She eventually is like reanimated.
Let's also be clear though too that it was just like a lot of kids, and I think it does like a good job at this particular demon did a good job. It's like, but I also think it was the nature of being younger group, they're easily manipulated.
Yeah, too. I suppose so. I didn't. There was portions of it I didn't love, but we'll get to them. But ultimately, she's reanimated, and then she's like, she's burning up or whatever, and she even says something on the phone about she's burning or whatever. So it's like, oh, she's in hell, or maybe she is, maybe she isn't. But that's what the demon's telling her. So they go to put her in the bathtub, and she's like spazzing out in the bathtub. And then one thing I don't love about this, and what makes it to me turned into a little bit of a like more of a cliche. You're just getting a lot of these like standard possession tropes in my mind, where like, oh, you're gonna do like a crazy raptor screech, and I did love when she like pratfalled back into the tub though. That was kind of fun.
Yeah.
But she does, you get those memorable lines like you expect from this franchise. One of them, when she starts saying wild shit to her kids and stuff, because it's of course the demon, kind of representing her, assuming she's dead, and the demon has just reanimated her and is using her corpse kind of thing. And she's like, I'm free from all you titty sucking parasites. And I just thought it was funny that a demon would say titty sucking.
Yeah.
I did like that.
And we skipped over it, but we're talking about tropes, and one of them is like all possession movies have some sort of vomiting. I like that this one went just full Team America though.
With the maggots?
No. If you remember what when Elle is in the kitchen cooking eggs, and then she just drops to the ground and then just starts vomiting all over the floor. It's almost exactly Team America when the main character is throwing up outside of the club.
Yeah.
It's
like on all fours.
Yeah, on all fours, just like a straight gusher. It's fucking like this is one of the moments that like this is kind of funny.
Yeah, they do a couple of fun, not even levity, but like this franchise is known for its sense of humor. So it does do a couple of those.
Yeah,
I was going to make a point too, like that kind of touches on this, and it'll be more relevant later. But like some of like how extreme, like vomiting and the blood throughout it actually had like some of those like brain dead Peter Jackson type vibes to it that just like seems so extreme throughout this. And and those were like moments when I was sitting there in the theater, I was just like sick. Like,
they definitely push it.
That was my response.
Yeah, they definitely push it with a lot of the blood and a lot of the meanness. the other thing, just as it's a levity thing if you read it that way, but earlier in the film, they're setting up all the Chekhov's guns.
Oh God, there's like 5 of them.
Yeah, Stephanie, the tattoo gun, the scissors, like
the actual gun, the shotgun.
Yeah, just all those things get set up early, and you're like, oh, we're gonna see this in play, this in play, this in play, this in play, and then they pay it off. They pay them all off. So
they do. Yeah. I would say it has some levity elements, but the one thing, aside from maybe one short scene, the thing I love about the original movies, especially the second is the masterpiece of the franchise in my mind. I think a lot of people would agree with me. The thing that I love about the second movie is not only the like laughs that are thrown into the craziness, but the bizarre things that you're just like, what the fuck? They're not funny. They're more like curious and bizarre. Like, of course, like the girlfriend, dancing, out in the woods and then taking her skin off and all that stuff. Like, that is fucking great. And the whole time you're like, this isn't funny. It's just bizarre and dreamlike. And like, there's so much of the first 2 movies that I think, and even the third movie, frankly, because it's, time traveling and shit, that like, they just felt very dreamlike. And this movie, they were more going for this like ultra gritty, like trauma thing. And the one, I don't know if it was self-aware or not, but like the one, like the little child does say at one point something like, is this a dream or is this like a nightmare? And she says,
is this a nightmare?
Oh, is this a nightmare? Yeah. And it's like, it never felt like that though.
No.
It never had that. Yeah.
But I still think there was like just this extreme behavior that we got to experience. But again, everything just felt like we've kind of seen it before. So nothing felt like a whimsical nature of that's like a terrible phrasing for it.
No, but like that dreamlike bizarreness.
And
it's just not
this
there.
franchise has like such a beautiful way of like, we can chalk a lot of like any sort of rationale around anything we see because we're like, we're dealing with demons. I don't know what the fuck demons do. You know what I mean? And so I think in my mind, there was still this element here, but all of it felt in a sense a little regurgitated, even though like I liked seeing certain things. So I think that like my problems that I have are that like there was less originality in this one. I love the gore and anyway, keep going. I'm just
the one thing that I said that I don't think I have seen before, which I actually wrote down, was sucking somebody's eyeball out of their head and then spitting it down somebody else's throat and killing them that way.
Well, I read that as being a little bit that happened in a different Evil Dead.
That happened in 2. Yeah, that happened in 2. It's not the eating of the eyeball, but the eyeball gets spit out of Ted Raimi's head as Henrietta down another person's throat. So it's a callback. I'm completely
forgetting that. I'm completely blanking on that.
I brought it up. I brought it up during Midnight Meat Train.
Oh, maybe that's why. Maybe that's why it was fresh in my mind. But anyway, so the thing I thought was a little bit new wasn't actually new at all.
No, it wasn't. But I mean, the one thing that you're talking about as far as like this whimsical nature, and it's the scene that always comes to my mind, is in Evil Dead 2 where Ash is surrounded by all the taxidermy animals coming back to life.
Yeah, great scene.
That's so fucking great and so fucking weird.
I always thought that was a tourist trap reference.
I don't know why.
It just reminded me of Tourist Trap, even though they're not animals. I don't know. It just felt like the way their mouths open was reminiscent of that. But
it may be. But I mean, like a film that you get a lot more of that in is A Wounded Fawn, which we watched not too long ago. There's a lot more of that weird dreaminess to it, of like weird things coming to life that you're not quite sure what you're seeing. You're seeing a whole bunch of shit that you're not sure of.
Do you associate that just like in general from previous Evil Deads, or is it just like what I said? I think because they're demons.
What do you mean, the dream life thing?
Yeah, like, or having like whimsical thing or things that are just like, I've never seen this before kind of scenes versus like it being we can chalk it to like these are just demons versus it being like a trope for Evil Dead of sorts, you know?
No, 2 is very, I don't know if you've seen 2, but 2 is extremely weird and dreamlike. Like the scene with the dead girlfriend dancing through the misty forest, and then like Steve said, with the taxidermied animals all coming to life, and it's almost like if the most horrific version of Looney Tunes. You know, it feels very Looney Tunes in that way. Yeah. Whereas this movie felt more mainstream, and that was just looking for the trope scares that maybe like the mainstream audience isn't totally sick of, but like I am fucking completely sick of. Like if you do creepy little childish singing, I'm out.
Yeah.
Like it's just such a worn out trope. Walking on all fours, whether it be crab walking or like kind of bear crawling, that's such a fucking predictable trope that's not scary anymore. The Exorcist nailed it in the fucking 70s, and then it's never gotten better than that, but everyone uses it. Weird.
I mean, I think you could find some good examples.
I'm being a little extreme, but you get what I mean. Like these things, fucking, weird, long, licking tongue shit. These are all like super cliche demon activities that I've seen.
Those are actually my top 3 things that I look for on dating apps.
Yeah, super long, crazy licking tongue. Good at walking on all fours. Creepy singing. No, but like that.
Glass swallowing.
That was actually kind of cool because they showed it in the throat. Like you thought it was gonna like almost puncture the throat. But like they're doing a lot of very stereotypical demon things, and in 2 especially, they do shit that you're like, no other movie does that.
Yeah, because it feels like it's just as much for the demons. It feels like it's just as much about driving Ash insane, as it is, like killing and eating them.
This is just like this demon. If these are 2 different demons, if the Ash demon is like the cool creative demon, this is like the basic ass fucking bro demon. It's just like
it's the baby of the family that also speaks with W's as R's.
Yeah, that's true.
This is not the Quinto Bro.
Yeah, like
this is their first time trying to like fuck someone's day up, and like they're not doing a great job.
They're going to the basic. Yeah. They basically Googled how to be a demon and then picked the top 15 things and did them.
I'm going to get you with the elevator.
Yeah. We're going to do bug things.
They actually looked at all the famous horror movies, and they were like, yeah, let's do the blood elevator from The Shining. Let's do wood chipper from Fargo. Let's fucking go, guys.
It got all its ideas from GIFs off Twitter.
Yeah, an AI wrote the demon part of this movie.
Oh my God. That's so relevant and perfect.
Yeah. I will say the one thing the demon does pretty well as being manipulative is Bridget, the very woke activist. The demon does try to make her do blackface at one point. So that's very manipulative.
She's man,
that's
Bridget's
true. I didn't ditch that way.
She was like just emotionally so weak in this, and I'm just like, I wanted you to be the strong one, and you're
you could tell they were setting her up to fucking get it.
She's a child.
Yeah, she's a child, but you could tell that
she didn't have a Stephanie. Where was your fucking Stephanie?
You knew the little kid was going to survive because this movie, I would say, this movie wanted to be super mean spirited, right? That's what it was going out to do, but it bit off more than it could chew. You could just tell. And they were like, and maybe even the original script was even more intense and hardcore, and then maybe they ground the edges off. But like, I'm not saying I'm looking for extremes like, hey, I want the little kid to be like decapitated or something, but they definitely set it up to be this ultra mean spirited movie, and it is to a certain extent, but then it never really does anything that's like over the top. Not that I'm even looking for that, but you definitely went in that direction. And but it just took the surprise out of it. And just like the way like Elle stands when she's like locked in the room, she's doing that like she looks like one of the fucking nurses from Silent Hill. You know what I mean? The way she's standing like a reanimated corpse stands. It's just nothing is really unique in that way. And then she's trying to do the whole like emotionally manipulate the child, saying "Mommy loves you" and all that stuff. And then
then that she's gonna eat their soul,
right?
Swallow you. Which again, it was another throwback. Sorry, let's keep going.
I do really like the "cause I gotta kill the creepy crawlies in my tummy." That's a good one. That was kind of like I don't know. That was all right. I thought that was kind of, I mean, it was just like, all it is just taking the same idea and just like really, really digging in.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the youngest kid, kills her sister accidentally,
Which is
who's
so
already
good.
dead. She's already dead technically.
What she did.
Yeah, because she's full fucking deadite at that point. Once you've turned like full deadite, there's no coming back.
I for some reason, no, you're right. I think for some reason my brain was like, was she fully dead? Yeah, no, she was coming after her, and that was just like the shock. And I loved that scene though, because they didn't fully know that that's what was going on. They knew something was really fucked up, and then just having the Stephanie thing just like go through her face, like that was good. That was a good kill. I'm gonna give it to him.
It was good. And then I did like when they wrapped her up in the blanket, and then she, comes
like,
back,
starts twitching and shit. Yeah,
but then so it's like it was fine. I'm not saying any of this was executed poorly by any means. I just think
creep factors. There were some creepy moments. I will literally give this movie that. I don't want to. The things I don't like didn't have to do with like the jump scares or just like the creepy crawly things. Like
ultimately what I think the biggest shortcoming of this movie is, and I fully accept that this is my personal preference, and I know other people love this movie and thought it was like superb, 10 out of 10, but I probably won't watch it again, is because I always feel, I think we've talked about this in the show, I always feel that kids in danger or kids in like super emotionally vulnerable situations always feels cheap to me. And I fully acknowledge that it could just be like me as a parent that I don't know, but
it's like, you're gonna fight a little bit harder. This is gonna be like higher stakes. It just feels
like a low blow to the audience, where it's like it's just a cheap way of manipulating emotion, instead of like doing it in a unique way that's like uniquely disturbing or uniquely scary or creepy or whatever. It's just like, oh, here's this idea that's a mediocre to good idea, but if you apply it to a kid, now it's like turning the temperature up on it. You know what I mean? And I just feel like that's a cheap writing strategy.
Can I add one scene though, that because I think we're getting closer and closer to like, like the final blows and stuff like that.
Yeah, we're kind of spiraling towards the end here.
Is the one scene when Beth goes to listen to the records and they're just like,
she MacGyvers the record player.
Yeah. And so, and then when the sister, then Elle like ends up being able to get in through the vent and crawling, and she sees her in the window. It doesn't feel original, but it felt creepy and perfect. It was
everything
awesome.
was well executed.
It was creepy. It was no shortcoming of that. Everything I hated was just like, I don't want you to be talking right now. I don't want to know about your plot. I want to see the creepy shit. Anywho, let's keep going. But that was a good scene in my opinion.
Yeah, the end. I mean, we're kind of spiraling towards the end. Like again, we talked about like Beth fucking MacGyvers the record player and learns that the only way to defeat them is basically just to like completely destroy the body 100% kind of thing. So you're like, okay, what's going to happen?
But how do you do that? Come on, let's figure it out.
Well, you think it's like it's going to be burning, or it's going to be acid, or it's going to be just like crunching shit up like they did in Halloween Ends, and that's ultimately the direction they go. But we talked about Bridget being reanimated under the sheets, and barfs a bunch of blood all over Danny. Like that was fine, but again, there's nothing new there. That feels like a very that felt like a pretty not common, but like we've seen that 100 times. And
I mean the volume and the heaviness of the blood feels pretty good, but
the blood itself, the practical blood in this, and even when they're in the elevator scene, which I thought was the best scene in the movie, which we're about to get to, it's well executed. Everything about this is technically sound. But like the demon knows that Beth is pregnant at some point, and then that never really pays off. But you do get all the other, Chekhov's guns that you talked about. I did like when she was blasting her limbs off. I thought that was kind of fun. That was one of the scenes where I was like, okay, this is starting to get a little weird and surreal, but it never really goes to the heights of 2. But my my two favorite scenes and ones that I thought were the most like not necessarily the creepiest ones, but the most suspenseful ones. Probably the one that was the most creepy to me is the Dead by Dawn scene when they're all in the hallway.
Yeah.
And it's all the neighbors,
chanting.
all the kids, and they just all start chanting, you all be dead by dawn. And then they all start chanting Dead by Dawn. I thought that was cool. And then
another Evil Dead-y thing. Like it was great about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And it was a reference, but it wasn't. I mean, it was heavy-handed, but it was just like, I don't know, it felt appropriate for the situation. And then when they're in the elevator that's filling up with blood, that is the type of bizarre, surreal thing I expect from this franchise. You're like, why is the elevator filling with blood? And when you see the elevator, you see it first start filling up the walls, and it's like behind the lit buttons. And then they're like, literally treading water in this like thick gelatinous blood. You're like, oh, fuck yeah.
Oh,
this is getting wild.
Can I recreate this scene? But I think it would be really funny if this was like a little bit more slapsticky, is that if that was the case, but then it was like one of those milk toys that would be with, one of the doll houses you were a kid and you're just like trying to play house, but it never really fully fills up. It just goes around you. That would have been really funny.
What is a milk toy?
No, like it was like a cup of milk, like for one of those when you're playing house in a kitchen. So it's not actually fully milk. In my mind, I'm like, a slapsticky way to make this scene is like when like it's not actually like, but it just would be like making it
full.
Like,
it's just it's just like one of those dumb toys where when you dump it upside down, it looks like it's pouring out, but it's not actually.
That was actually way more stupid when I said it out loud, but in my mind, I kind of liked it.
I got really, I know what you're talking about now, and that is funny. But when you first said it, I got very fixed on the phrase milk toy. And I'm like, what the flying fuck is she talking about? Because we had those when we were little that came with like, some sort of play food set or whatever, but it was orange juice. So like in my mind, it's orange juice, but for years it was milk. But yes, it's like a baby doll bottle that you'd see those too,
Yes, that's exactly what it is going on in my brain.
What I'm saying is you're so lucky that we got what the fuck you were talking about.
Right.
She did a horrible job describing it. But it is a funny visual. Yes, that would be funny. You did good, but you did a bad job doing good.
I'm just going to make a sidebar quest here for 2 seconds of like things I learned about myself on the trip. 1, I am insanely impatient. 2, my brain, when I hear things, instantly comes up with stories like what I just shared with you, or songs. And then that was the first trip where I just my friend would say something, I'd just start singing a song because it just reminded me of that song. I feel like there's not a third.
That's all ADHD, Meg. That's all ADHD.
Okay, number 3. I have ADHD, guys.
Thank you. If you just established that on the trip, that's sad for you because you've spent a lot of time in your life not being undiagnosed. No, but that's man. That's funny. Yeah. No, they ultimately do like puke out of the elevator. Because you get into the situation that's like, oh, it's like it feels, even though you're like it's in an elevator and the door could open at any time, it does, especially when the deadites are reaching in from the top. It feels like it's in one of those like unescapable scenarios. So what's going to happen next? And the suspense is really high, but then the door just opens up and it just like, pukes out the Shining. Very much an homage to The Shining, but
homage.
It's a homage.
I just wanted to say it a third different way.
So that elevator scene was the first part in the movie that I was like, okay, this feels like an Evil Dead thing. This feels like a modernized Evil Dead thing. But anyway, we're kind of spiraling towards the ending here. Cass, again, is this just kind of, it starts to drag a little bit in the final act where it's like, okay, Cass, who's the widow baby. Cass gets in trouble. She gets in peril. Beth saves her. Cass gets in peril. Beth saves her. That's kind of the thing happens.
She's such a good mom.
Because she's going to be a good mom and she's strong and she gets
the child then tells her.
Yeah.
So
the child is like...
Child doesn't even understand how to
She's reading subtext. She's like, here's some subtext for you. You're going to be a good mommy someday.
She lets her mom into the apartment. Like, what a fucking idiot.
Yeah. That character of the kid, the young kid, just like, again, it's nothing against the performance. It was great, but she didn't need to be in the movie. She really didn't.
I don't know. I feel like Beth's character became stronger because of having like she had like a purpose or a reason.
I know, but it could have been
bit,
any of the other
like,
kids, and it just felt like, oh, they had to put this little kid in there that was gonna, just say the things you were supposed to feel. I don't know. It just felt like that was one of the things that made this feel like a mainstream wannabe movie to me. That and the way it was cut. It's cut like a fucking video game at times, which drives me nuts. Just the way it's edited. But we'll get to that in a second. But we're pretty much at the end of the movie almost. You get the trademark Evil Dead chainsaw. Why the fuck is there a chainsaw in an apartment building in LA? Who knows? Why is there a wood chipper? I don't know. Apparently
but
the guy who...
I was like looking up other tropes and shit for Evil Dead and stuff, and the car, the Delta 88, kept coming up, and that it was very clear that this chainsaw was the substitution for it, which is weird.
There is like an old car that's in there, but that's Bruce Campbell's car in the original movie.
Lee interviewed to that point of what I just said. Like he interviewed saying that was their homage to that specific thing.
The chainsaw was an homage to the car?
Yeah, like they painted it the same color as the car.
Jesus
and
Christ.
that, yeah.
Barf
right,
puke.
right.
It's the same color as the car. Wasn't the car like that kind of like olive pukey green?
There's like yellowish or something stupid.
Yeah, or like a chartreusey type of thing. Okay.
Yeah, it's a shitty like beige almost green.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's an old Oldsmobile. My one of my best friends in college actually owned an exact Delta 88.
Really?
It's
cool.
Yeah.
It's one of those
old. Did
old.
he keep a Necronomicon in the back?
Maybe. I don't know. Yeah, I didn't check out what was back there.
It's probably in the glove compartment. A little miniature one in the glove compartment. But yeah, you get the wood chipper in the park. It's in the parking garage. So the whole like demon family is fucking fed into the wood chipper, and then eventually
it's like I actually didn't even read this, but now I'm thinking of like very much the thing with like how it came together and how they all became one in a sense, but then
it felt a little overly convenient that they all just got glommed into a little jumbled up little thing, I mean,
it's a thing that like you see the artwork in the book, which I don't know, just a side Pennsylvania thing. If anybody who drinks Nightmare Brewing, the artwork on their cans looks exactly like the artwork in the book. But, they show kind of foreshadowing in the book of like somebody's going to get a cut on their face and like spew out bugs and, vines.
They have the thing with the stuff coming out of her mouth, and then there is,
And then somebody... Yeah, and then eventually somebody's going to turn into this fucking abomination that's made up of, a whole bunch of deadites.
Yeah.
It's someone's baby, though. That demon has a mama.
Demons do?
Yeah. Oh, actually, that would be a great T-shirt idea. Do like a Mama said something about like don't grow up to be a cowboy, but it's like some sort of demon that's like, you know what I mean? Like,
Mama said don't grow up to be a shambling abomination.
Yeah, like I'm just now seeing this like Western to horror like
it's got a little cowboy hat and he's just tipping it.
Yeah.
TM, don't see this idea, people. It's gonna be in my brewery one day.
How many ideas are we allowed to come up with TM and then never do before it's like a Boy Who Cried Wolf situation?
I think we have a year. I think that's podcast law is you have a year.
Baby girl has a bad brain, so she's gonna forget it after I walk off this episode.
That's also a t-shirt. Baby girl have a bad brain.
That is a t-shirt too.
Yeah. You do get you get this thing where it's like the whole body gets destroyed except for Elle's head, and then she says some bullshit. So one last little bit of bullshit to Beth, and then she like does she kick her head into it? Yeah, it's like, okay, that felt a little Evil Dead-y, but like silly in a silly fun way. But it's like, okay, it's nothing. Again, it's not anything you haven't seen before. And then, of course, you said, Beth and Cass are the only assuming, survivors here. But what was the key change showing you? I kind of didn't get that.
It was just showing the family together before it got ripped apart.
I was also going to make a note that we mentioned that too. Is another one of those notes that I saw about the movie talking about there was like ties between like having 5 members over here, original 5 people in the movie. There's kind of a tie there. Blah blah blah. I don't like it. I'm just saying things now about this whole ties. It's a weak one. It's a weak one, but it's just there was like a point saying that there could be like.
That feels more like JFK's birthday is the same as Lincoln or something. You know what I mean?
I don't know about that. I mean, I don't know if I feel that like it's not that far fetched, but at the same time, like having the same like a certain amount of people. Sure, I get it. I think it feels more like a normal like a general movie trope, like of like how many people you need to be able to keep the story going. So like this person dies here, this person dies here. And it makes it flow better. I will say with this
normally
movie,
these people are, in a lot of type like slasher type movies or even like supernatural movies where a lot of people are getting killed. They're like, sexy teenagers, smoking cigs and doing drugs or whatever. And in this case, they're like kids. So it's like, we're a family. So it's like, it's like almost felt a little edgelordy in that way. But I don't know. I don't know why it just rubbed me the wrong way. And I liked some of the gore. I liked some of the spooky moments. I think the story was weak, and I hope they don't try to do another one. Yeah. I hope. Well, let me do the last thing because they're about this. The very last thing basically is a cut to the girl who was possessed in the opening scene, and she's getting ready for the trip. And she's talking to her friend who gets her scalp ripped off. And she's like, no, bitch, you're coming on my sick trip. And then she stumbles upon, all the crate.
The blood and still just goes off. Like, I'm not calling the cops right now.
Well, I think she gets snatched up by the old demon wind pretty quick there. Because now the demon is loose in the parking garage because the body has been destroyed, and then she stumbles on all this crazy blood and gore and is like, what the fuck? And then the demon just fucking zaps into her, and then that's credits roll.
What the fuck? Who spilled all this Kool-Aid?
this is fucked up. She's got like a really dumb hat. I want her to die because she's wearing that hat.
Right. She's wearing the Coachella hat.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Somebody called the landlord. Somebody spilled a bunch of Kool-Aid down here. This is fucking gross. It's sticky down here.
It's just to assume it's Kool-Aid.
Get there. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like I said, it's fun. It's like a tight, fast-paced, very modern movie in that, which again, it's a
do you know what the
pretty
running
big
time was? Because it didn't feel long, but it felt like
what's an hour and a half, give or take.
Yeah, so I feel like
I think it was like 97 minutes or something.
Yeah, like it kind of on the long run, and in essence, like for something it could have been, but it was like it never felt long ever.
No, for me, for a modern horror movie, I feel like that's below average run time because the average horror movie, like, it should be around between like 80 and 100 minutes, but like a lot of modern horror movies are pushing 2 hours, and this was like I felt like a pretty tight. I think it was like 90 some minutes.
Yeah.
So
especially again to get you going, like even we talk about how essential cold opens are to get you going, but even the time between the cold open and things actually happening is still pretty quick. Yeah. Like I was watching this and I went to take notes and I was just shocked that I was already an hour into the film. I was like, oh wow, this is actually booking.
Weirdly, when it got super hectic at the end is when it dragged a little bit for me.
Yeah. Good. Well, that's because also it was just so, I don't know, the way it played out just felt like so forced. Because they did that whole ring around the rosy thing with the car, which took too long.
Yep.
And then the whole thing with the wood chipper of like, we're going to turn the wood chipper on.
Yep.
And then we're going to turn it off. But now we turn it back on. And it's like, come on, let's just go.
She's got the gun. She's not got the gun. She's got the chainsaw. Like, if the whole parking lot sequence could have been at least cut in half.
Yeah. It's like, just go.
Yeah. We all know what's going to happen. We get it. We saw Chekhov's wood chipper. We know what's going to happen.
Yeah. We saw the wood chipper. We've heard the record of, you have to dismember the bodies. Let's get to that point already.
Yeah. Here's the other thing that like when the whole like kid thing and like kids dying and, the separation from the parents and the siblings. And like I said, it always feels very like this, like almost not exploitative in a fun way, if you get what I mean. Like you tell me, like I love a good like exploitation flick. This just feels like emotionally cheap, where it's just like, we're just going to go after, everyone's scared of, getting separated from their kids or their parents or their loved ones or their siblings or whatever. And it's just like, to like linger on that a lot just feels kind of, like I said, kind of cheap and stuff. So like but if it was super effective and like hyper realistic and super brutal and mean, then you'd be like, at least it's memorable. But like the kids,
then it wouldn't feel that much. It would feel even farther divorced from Evil Dead.
You're right. It totally would. So that's what I mean when I say it bit off more than it can chew.
I just feel like it could have been a little bit more simpler and like been more focused on the story and the horror and kept the gore and pulled a few of the tropes. I think it literally felt like a film based on Evil Dead tropes and pulling from other movies. It was fully reminiscent of so many other things, while I still appreciate. So like, I hated the story, but I love the gore. I love some of the spookiness. Relied too much on tropes and like other shit.
But even like the kids' reactions to their siblings being
you've
killed,
seen it before.
But they didn't
that
even
was even
seem
weird.
that genuine.
Yeah,
like they were just like, oh, their siblings are getting knocked off left and right, and they're just like not even. The problem is
they're shaking in their room for a moment.
That sort of thing actually happening would be unwatchable, right? So I get that, but they went in the other direction where it was like, it almost seemed like whoever died, there really wasn't that much stakes involved.
Yeah.
Like, at that point. And so that's what I mean when I say it bit off more than it can chew. Like, it created the scenario where these horrific things are happening to people's loved ones in front of their faces. And that's not fun to watch. Like, if you want to watch that happening in real life, like, you're a fucking sociopath. Like, you should probably be in jail or therapy or something. But like, the fact that they did that, but then made it seem like it's not that big of a deal, just kind of took the stakes out of everything.
Yeah.
And,
I think one of the, early on is you see the neighbors, and the neighbor kids are out in the hall, and there's the one really young neighbor kid.
Yes.
And fucking, what's her face? Beth.
Bridget.
Like, she just, no, Beth.
Oh, I thought you meant when they come to the door and they're like, come watch movies with us or whatever.
No. What I'm getting at is the scene where Elle is out in the hallway and she's killing everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Beth just slams the door on that little kid.
Yeah.
Who's like, he's not been assailed or anything. He's just out there left alone, and she just slams the door on him. Yeah. So like, I think, that's supposed to be shocking or whatever, but also like, she makes no attempt to save him.
Yeah.
So you just don't feel like, I don't know, you don't feel anything. And then all the subsequent things of like the kids having to kill their siblings.
Yeah.
I feel like the film was trying to pull some sort of subtext of, and this goes right along with how they didn't really innovate the possession story, but a lot of times the possession story is tied to alcoholism or drug abuse.
Right.
And I feel like they were really trying to possibly set up Elle as some sort of drug addict. Yeah. Because
I thought about that too.
The husband walked out, and then she exhibits so many of the drug addict things of like throwing up on the floor, and like they're never really sure if she's dead.
Well, even when she's like when she's like cooking the eggs and stuff, it was almost like, what's mommy doing? That's the scene that made me think about that.
Right. And then like, they're never really sure if she's dead. They have to drag her into the tub. Like there's a lot of this of the kids having to take care of her for a time because they don't know what's wrong with her. Yeah. And so, and the strained relationship between her and Beth, because on one hand, Beth is like, she's very selfish at the beginning. Yeah. And you get a scene of her, like, she's framed as the one that's more emotionally distraught by finding out that the husband is left than Elle is. Yeah. So like, she's almost like
Elle was expecting it or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And so you get, like, again, what I'm just getting at is that just like the possession trope isn't really strong, but you have this idea that the family's already been shattered. And so that's why when they have to kill their siblings and everything, like it's just the siblings fighting because of what has already happened to them.
Yeah. Yeah, the stakes didn't seem particularly high. You know, I use an example of a movie like, I mean, a lot of zombie movies do it well, but even like a movie that's not even that amazing of a movie, but 28 Weeks Later, you know, when the guy like basically bails on his family and just runs away in the opening sequence, that movie, which is a pretty mediocre movie overall, I'm talking about the sequel. Did I say 28 Weeks Later?
Yeah, you said 28 weeks.
Okay,
Yeah, you're right.
It's so emotionally devastating, and you don't even know these characters,
right?
But like they just really portray like he has given in to just absolute panic and fight or flight cowardice kind of thing, and it's just like there's no way back. He made the split decision and there's no way back, and now he has to, like, you have to soak in it and live in it as he's running away and all this stuff, and like it never felt anything like that. Even like when you know the mom dies and all the kids are just like, oh no, mom died.
Right.
Like it just doesn't feel at all emotionally devastating, which is like, that's not necessarily the movie I want to watch, but it feels like there's no stakes because of that.
I feel like, so I think when I see that though, I just think it was just like poorly executed, because I think in essence it's trying to pull this like, it's seeing stuff where things were slapsticky and like the originals, like those kills weren't ever, what I remember, they never necessarily felt so overtly emotional either. But I think in this case, our expectations with it being kids is that it could have been slapsticky if it went from like one extreme to another, or they could have made it extremely emotional, which I think probably they should have leaned into a little bit more to give you more of an attachment and not just be like, that's an inappropriate response. Like, and I think that's just what you feel throughout it. You know what I mean?
I think I'm more in the camp of they just shouldn't have even done this story. Like, I completely agree that the story they tried to undertake.
Shut it down, guys.
Shut it down. The story they tried to undertake was too serious for the franchise.
Totally.
So they just shouldn't have done this story. They could do, like, you can have kids and you can have stuff like that, but don't try to have like the drug subtext. Don't have, 2013 has the drug subtext, but it's also very surface level because it's part of the story that they're taking Mia to go get clean at the cabin.
Yes.
So it's also very surface level, and like it works in that setting because like the stakes are whatever, because they're still 20-year-old shitheads.
Exactly. So it's like it's the appropriate amount of disturbed by their death.
Right. It's the appropriate amount disturbed by their death, and it's the appropriate amount of audience being asked to care. But, I kind of agree with you, Brian, about how like Kids in Peril is a cheap heartstring to pull. I do find it interesting though that you're bothered by this film, but you love Terrifier 2.
Terrifier 2 just took things to such an extreme degree that I am just fascinated by its extreme nature. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like, I'm just because that movie is so much meaner than this movie in such an insane way. I just like listen, you know me, I like big, bold, wacky swings. I like when people do things that buck the trend or things that feel genuinely unique and dangerous. You know what I mean? Like this could really fucking alienate an entire audience.
Right.
And Terrifier 2, the fact that there was so many people who like walked out of the movie and like were literally puking in the theater and stuff, that is all justified because it is fucking so over the top violent and intense and mean that it's just like they were like caution to the wind, like, fuck you, we're gonna do this so hard, we're gonna make you puke, you bitches. This movie felt so like neutered. It just felt like maybe the script was more intense, maybe it wasn't, but it felt like a movie for as many people as they could pack into the theater to see it. This was a big budget-ish, not big budget, for a horror movie. This was a fairly big budget, super highly produced, glossy, shiny, tentpole horror movie that just wanted desperately to be liked by as many people as possible. Whereas Terrifier 2 felt like a fuck you, I dare you to like this.
So you like it when films are true edgelords, not faking edgelordom.
Yes. If it's going to be an edgelord, if you're going to go full edgelord, don't be a fucking bitch about it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't necessarily gravitate towards those movies. Like, I like supernatural shit. I like goofy shit, but it's like, it's almost like the reason I wasn't super psyched about Renfield. It just felt like it was trying so hard to be, applicable to a super wide audience. I just like weird niche-y movies that are in it for their own sake of making the movie they want to make. And if that means big, bold fucking swings, if that means like over the top weirdness or over the top violence or over the top whatever, it just I don't like movies that cater to the audience, I guess is what I ultimately mean to say. Like in horror, if it's in, other genres, comedy, whatever. Okay, fine. Sure. But like horror is a, what's the word I'm looking for? I like for it to be subversive.
Okay.
I like for it to feel
transgressive.
Yeah. Transgressive, subversive. Yeah. That's what I want from my horror movies. And this did not feel like that at all.
One day we're going to watch Funny Games on this show, and
Funny Games is fucking wild, and it's not fun to watch.
No, it's not.
It's really unpleasant to watch, but I respect that movie so much more.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I'm trying to get you to turn this movie off.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I like. Or like, think about fucking stupid. I'm trying to think of some of the, like, almost all the movies that I really, really like are like either feel like an inside joke or are like a middle finger to the audience. Those are all my favorite movies.
Fair enough. Gremlins 2, middle finger to the audience.
Fucking love it, right?
Inside joke and middle finger to the audience.
Halloween 3, fuck you. You know what I mean? Like, just fuck you guys. Killer Clowns from Outer Space. You guys, this is going to be so fucking dumb. Well, you just wait. But anyway, so that's where we're at. I would say overall, absolutely worth a watch. I see a lot of people really giving this movie tremendously high praise, and I just don't see where it stands out. Like over Malignant, great example. Malignant's like, get ready for this shit. You're going to poop your pants, guys, when you see what this fucking
Guess
movie
what
is.
we dropped $50 million on?
Yeah, you dumb bitch. Here, come watch this. And then I'm like, yes, I love every second of it. This movie just felt like a fun popcorn horror movie, big budget popcorn movie. Nothing wrong with that. Absolutely worth seeing it. Go see it in the theaters. Support the fucking theaters. Don't go buy it off of fucking Amazon. Or if you're going to stream it, steal it from Amazon. Fuck, Bezos and Amazon. But, go out and support the theaters if you want to go see it. I think this would be a really great theater movie. But absolutely worth a watch. It just didn't blow me away. Like I feel like some people are really talking this movie up, and I know I'm being like a little bit of an elitist asshole again. 2 consecutive episodes. No, maybe not 2 consecutive. No, that wasn't the last episode. I'm thinking of when we talked about Renfield. Yeah, but that's just I don't know. Maybe I am an elitist asshole. I don't know. Maybe that's who I am.
Keeping my lips sealed.
Final thoughts, Meg?
Final thoughts?
Oh, I
Brian's
feel like I kept interjecting. Brian, 10 out of 10, elitist asshole. No, I think I've said like a lot of my piece, honestly, on this one. Not much has changed. I think like I liked aspects of it. Go watch it. It's fun, but like try not to get distracted by, the story. I think the story is really where it loses itself. So
yeah,
that's it. But I love the gore. And even when I pointed out the whole like Peter Jackson, like, brain dead type gore level, or even that's reminiscent of the OGs too. But like, I loved that. I absolutely loved it. I wanted
like brain dead feels transgressive. This didn't,
Yeah. Well, it's hard to feel transgressive 30 years after the fact of brain dead. Like
true. Yeah.
It's hard to be transgressive when so many things have already been done. But if you look at this film from the lens of like, this is your first Evil Dead film you've ever seen, you're in for a real treat. If this is your 5th one, then you're going to get a little tired with it. But, it still moves fast enough. I like it as a film, and I would like to see more. I'm always willing to see more because I think the goodwill they built up with the 2013 and with the TV show, like the TV show is far and away probably the best part of the Evil Dead series, because it's both modern.
I need to go back and rewatch it more because I've heard it's really fun, and I've only watched a few episodes.
Yeah, I feel like I watched the first season. I need to go back because I don't know, I feel like there's more than what I watched. I know at least that. But like,
I feel like I didn't get it cooking yet. You know what I mean? Like I didn't get to the place where it really starts cooking.
When it hits season 2, season 3 is when it really starts going. And it's all the campiness. It's all the weirdness. It's silly. Lucy Lawless is hot. Please marry me. Take me away from this life.
Proposal. Thank you. And good night. All right.
That's it.
Fun stuff. Go check it out, guys. And if you have any suggestions for redneck shenanigan flicks for us,
remember,
for our June Showdown,
and Megan from the Black Lagoon, send them my way. Thank you, guys. Love you.
Meg, last minute flea, vocal fry, the whole 9 yards. Really nailed it for you guys. But no, if you do have suggestions, send them our way. You know, I'm always looking for some. I like some creepy ass backwoods horror movies. So let's check them out. Give the bog hag herself, a send off with something good.
Oh, I just don't believe the genuine, like definitely not genuine over there.
Bog hag energy. Give it to her.
My nickname at work is Goblin, so it's more of a goblin energy at this point in my life.
Not a bog. What's a bog goblin? That's a boglin, which is an actual toy.
Oh man.
Have you seen a boglin? They're a lot of fun. That's a real toy.
Sounds
from
like
our
a great
childhood.
sex toy. I don't know.
Well, it is rubber. You could probably figure something out with it. Anyway, guys, check us out next week when we're talking about something else that I don't know about yet. But do we have anything on the docket for next minisode yet, or are we just figuring that out?
No, we'll just figure it out. I do want to bring something up.
Okay.
It just now that we're at the end of the episode and we got everything cleared up, I have something I want to bring up.
Okay.
Brian, have you started your odyssey into the Fast and the Furious?
No, but I have been.
What did I actually miss?
No, I have
not
not
like
yet.
I missed a lot.
I've been thinking a lot about it because of the previews keep coming on every 5 fucking seconds on every channel and every streaming service. And I think, how can I not watch this movie? Fast and Furious X.
Yes.
Whatever
I
it is.
learned from my friend that he is actually kind of into those movies when we traveled together one time, and it was really eye-opening. I feel really sad right now. I don't know why we're going this way.
Steve's been trying to get me to talk me into watching them. So, but he's smiling like a real shit-eating grin on his face.
He does though, because like they're silly and funny, and like I don't know, if you're sick or really hungover,
like if you're sick as fuck,
like sit down,
like if you're fucking
watch
sick.
Those. No, not like sick, bro. Like
if you're just wake up and you're like fucking sick, and then you put it on.
Yeah,
if you're sick to the point that you're throwing up on your affliction tea, then that's the perfect time to watch them.
If you're home, you're just like
recovering from getting your angel wings tattooed on your back.
Hungover. Oh my gosh, did that happen recently to you? I feel like I've missed
did that happen
so
to
much.
you?
Yes, I woke up and somebody had given me angel wing tattoos on my back.
If it was you, it would be purposeful.
No, I have not.
You look like a guy that would have angel wing tattoos.
You shut your bitch mouth.
With your daughter's names under each wing.
You take that back, you sons of bitches.
But I just wanted to bring it up though, because like there's recent news. Remember how we were talking about how the Fast and the Furious X was going to be 2 movies?
Okay.
Vin Diesel's giving you a reprieve, Brian, because he's actually going to turn it into 3 movies.
Damn.
So now you have extra time to watch the previous movies you haven't seen.
There's at least 20. Go for it.
Maybe what we should do, guys out there, if you're still listening to this episode, if you have, we've been talking about starting a Patreon. Maybe this is a Patreon thing where Steve and I, at Meg, don't worry, you've already departed. You will be long gone by this point.
This is the anti-Patreon ad right now.
If you want to have a Patreon of once a month, me and Steve going through for the next year, watching one Fast and the Furious movie a month for the next year and talking about them, let us know. Is that
No
what you
one
want to
said.
pay money for? If you want to give us money to do that, I will do it. Otherwise, I don't think I will. I genuinely don't
Oh my God.
think I
Now
will.
I actually want people to just subscribe because I want you to suffer.
Because you're gonna have to do it when you're sober. You're most likely
I
gonna have
would
to watch them like
literally never do that. I
you
would
would
not.
purposefully make yourself hungover so you watch it.
I'm looking at a paper cutter right now on the desk.
Oh my God.
I would cut my dick and balls off with a paper cutter before I watched all of the Fast and the Furious movies.
No, I think you would end up
sober.
loving it. I actually,
I would love cutting my dick off. That's
that
more
too.
likely than
That's true.
than watching the Fast and Furious movies.
You would do like one slice per movie.
You don't know. You haven't
Like,
seen
by
John
the
Cena
end,
one.
you would
Gets
actually-
shorter and shorter.
It's like you're just like little tiny, the snack Ritz crackers size.
Little pepperoni bites. Little
Yeah,
charcuterie of his penis.
And then we cure it, and it's a whole thing. Guys, if you want to experience slices of my cured penis,
That's a higher
sign
level
up.
of the Patreon.
That's a high level Patreon. Yeah, it's a high level
Yeah.
Patreon.
That's you get to go to Brian's murder room. You get to like have dinner with him and his family, and then you guys turn down for the night, and then say what up.
Turn
All
down.
John style.
Turn down for what, you guys?
Turn
All
down
right. Any other comments, Steve,
No,
on the Fast
absolutely
and the Furious
not.
franchise?
I'm
No,
fucking
good. I just wanted to
over
give you the
everything.
good news. There's going to
Okay.
be 12 Fast and the Furious films
Thank
when
you.
it's all
I'm
said
so
and
happy.
done.
So happy. All right. For the Halloween is Forever crew, I'm Brian.
I'm Meg.
I'm Steve, still the champ of Fast and Furious. I'm so fast.
He's so fast. He's so furious. Fuck you guys. Bye.
Fast as fuck, boy.
Whenever I pour a beer, I always imagine it's going beer, 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 beer.